Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Social Media Decoded podcast, the number one podcast to help you understand social media better so that you can grow your business, get more leads, and also monetize. And today I am excited because we're chatting about a favorite topic of mine, which is influencer marketing. Okay. And we all know that influencer marketing is like $1 billion industry. And so I have Terrah here today to chat all about proven influencer marketing methods. And we're going to give you all the tea. Welcome, Terrah. I'm so excited to chat with you on the podcast today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited. We're finally here.
Yes. So tell us a little bit more about yourself and how did you get involved in influencer marketing?
It's a long story. It goes back to 2011. I'm just kidding. It was very beginning of Instagram that I really started to see the shift, I guess. I had a model and talent agency in California. And that is right as Instagram was starting to come into play, and we were starting to see models or talent or even actors get booked for work based on their social following rather than their height, weight, talent. None of that seemed to matter anymore. So there was a big shift in that. And we started to see even bigger agencies, Wilhelmina, LA Models, add these specific things to their list. And so that's when the shift started to happen. I was I was going to college and I built a fashion blog for my daughter as like kind of a project. Well, it took off, and from there, we met other people that were doing it, other YouTube families, other influencers. This is right as Musically was starting to come around, so there was a lot of muser life in California, especially. It was very common, and we were just outside of there. So that was the first time I was really introduced to it. Was with my daughter. She was having her following was growing. She was at about 130,000 by that point and had gone viral a few times on TikTok. And you started to see this increase of job opportunities, agents reaching out, those types of things. So that's really where I got introduced to social influencer marketing.
Wow. And I definitely agree with you too when you're saying like people are starting to look at social media because my daughter is 8 and she is a basketball player, and there's a whole world of girls basketball players who have followings, and
Mm-hmm.
the schools are starting to look at that now. They're not looking at like the other things. They're like, well, who, has a following can bring visibility to our school. And so one
Mm-hmm.
of me and my husband's main goals at our agency is to help parents and help athletes, because we've done this for our daughter. She has like 1,200 followers now, but the people who are following her are like notable people, like people who can like make a change or give an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity or open a door or something like that. Not necessarily other parents, but creating, if anyone is listening that has a child, maybe a student athlete, or your child is into modeling or something like that, it is a good idea to start that personal brand. So I'm glad that you were able to like connect that and see like this, place where people aren't doing this and they aren't, focusing on this,
Time
and it's
I
needed.
was like the bad mom. It was not really acceptable. Obviously, even by my parents, were kind of like, "You're putting her online. I don't understand." But it really has come back to she was able to build a great savings account. Speaking of athletics, NIL is something that we're dipping our toes in. She is a student athlete, has a college soccer scholarship to Lubbock Christian University. I'm not saying that her social profile has anything to do with that, but I think that NIL coming around this last few years is going to start to build, and so it's a good place to be in that
Yeah.
in that space. Yeah.
So many opportunities, so many opportunities. So yes, to building the kids' social media. Let's not make it as scary as we think. It doesn't have to be that way. So
Yeah, and as long as you have like direction and you kind of know, and like, and it's hard for them to live online. One thing I noticed with Andy moving forward is like transitioning through those periods of life where you're like, well, maybe I used to like that, but now I like soccer but more, and like having to be transparent about that without like the fear of losing interest of an audience, or there's a lot of pressure that comes with it. But I think
mhm.
if you can do it openly, have an open communication about it. Don't go too far down, but it's a great thing. It's been a
Absolutely.
great thing for us.
Absolutely. I agree. So many opportunities. So let's talk about influencer marketing one on one. Can you give us like a rundown of how businesses can leverage influencer marketing? I know it's so many different ways, but just give us like what you've seen that has worked best with your clients.
Yeah, I just figured I'd kind of give you an explanation of how I do it.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't care if you use this idea or how you do it, but we do a lot of influencer outreach. So we'll spend actually 4 to 5 hours where we're researching local influencers that fall into the niche of the brand. And we do research. We start to look at their numbers, look at all their social profiles, whether they're bigger on YouTube, TikTok, where they're at. And then we do an influencer outreach. We're reaching out and saying, hey, we have a brand that could be interested in you. Do you mind sending a media kit? This is where we start to weed out the ones that we think are serious about what they're doing and the ones that aren't so serious about what they're doing. And social influencing is a job for those influencers that are treating it as one. And so you'll start to kind of fill that. I always tell the client to go with the one that they feel best with, whether that is that natural connection. We do a lot of service-based clients. So that comes with like that one-on-one conversation. Do you feel like you guys could build content together? Is it going to be awkward? Like those types of things. As far as brand goes, I think it would go back to like just looking at their previous content, making sure they align with you. You know, the greatest part of using influencers is that some of the best content creators are in those influencers. And if you can get content that you can use on your profile platforms, Pinterest, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn, then you're winning either way. Whether you see a flow of people come over and buy your product or a flow of people come in your door, you're still getting value just in the content that they're providing.
Absolutely. And I think like the content can be so universal, especially if like the goal, like there's a goal for the campaign, right? Or the
Mm-hmm.
goal for what the influencer is working with you on. I think that you
Yeah.
can reuse it as much as you want to,
Yeah.
right? But we also have to talk about too, before we go to our next question, like, you know, when it comes to paying influencers now, you might if you don't work with the influencer necessarily and you want like content like videos and reels and things like that, you would hire a production team and that's like 50 grand, right? So we know that like the price ranges may vary, but how can brands like really think about their budget when it comes to that? Like, because I know there can be a range, like I don't know, from $500 to $10,000. So like, how can brands can
100,000.
and 100,000? So like, how can brands like understand like
They're in like the millions or something like that.
yeah? So how can we, you know, how can brands say, okay, this is where my goal is. I can get maybe this tier of influencers for this price.
Yeah, I think it's going to begin. I mean, it goes back to like when you are doing the influencer outreach process and trying to find the ones that fit with your brand. I think that they're worth the money that you spend. A lot of people want to start with trade. If you have something that is equal to price to what they are charging, that's why in the media kit I like to see pricing, because it will allow me to say, okay, well, our product is priced here, and so they're getting this much more value just by getting the product, or vice versa, right? So matching it to that is kind of how I gauge that. I obviously, depending on what side I'm working on, am going to go and try and negotiate a little bit, either to lower that on the client side, or if I am doing it on behalf of an influencer trying to create a collaboration, I might try and pitch them, yes, we'll do that. Plus, if we do another TikTok, we'll give you access to something along those lines. So there's always room for negotiation. And so that's also something to remember when you are doing the process for your own business.
I hope everyone was listening because those are some really good tips that every brand needs to take note on. Now I'm with Terrah and I'm for the creators. And so I'm going to stand for creators that we deserve to be paid. It is not $20 and this is a whole production. So let's just I have to say that because I've been an influencer for 13 years and I experienced so much, and I get it. So we have to
And
be
in the
for the
beginning,
creators.
it's okay to like build that up, but it shouldn't be all the time. Even as a model, like a long time ago, obviously, see this like trend where they would get models to do things just for free, just to say that they were modeling, right? And then you do that one or two times, and then you put a price on that, so you only do $200. Well, you can't really move up. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to move up in that price. So I always hate to put a price on something immediately. I think it's just kind of fill it out. But depending on following and depending on the quality of content is what you're paying for.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's talk about long-term voice versus short-term collaborations, because I think this is definitely very important. And from an influencer perspective and also a brand perspective, personally, I think it's better to work with influencers long term. So let's talk about that long term versus short term. Which one works better? Because there might be some instances where short term is better working with influencers.
Yeah, I definitely always try to push for the long term. Like I said, we have service based industries that we work with a lot. And so those ones, we obviously write that into the agreement. Like, if we're going to service you in this thing, we don't necessarily want you jumping around from provider to provider to get this thing. And so protecting us against that. But also, we want them to feel like they naturally want to not go anywhere else. Like, that should be a thing too, right? And what was the other question you asked me about?
The long term versus short term. What do you really think about
Like short term,
influencers?
I think, yeah, in short term, we have another service based that is a one and done type situation where you are done. And that what are you going to do? Post like a year ago, hey, we did this collaborate, so it just depends, but you do want to overall build that relationship, that whether it's long term repetitively or it's something they come back to later, that you have that relationship with that influencer, because once they can make their connections to the things that they're going to stand behind, it's hard for them to get away from that too. So grab them, say, those are my influencers. You're not touching them. Yes.
Yes, and get with them. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the forecast of influencer marketing because it's $1 billion industry. So, what are your thoughts on where you see this industry headed in the next few years?
I don't think it's slowing down. I think it's changing. I hear a lot of talk in social media world and being in this space where they're saying it's dying out, or a shift, like there's no money there, or it depends. I mean, are you willing to go the whole way? I mean, it's going to take commitment. It's definitely not something easy, but I tell people all the time, like, we are looking for influencers. I'm looking for influencers all the time, and there's not enough. And so if I'm saying there's not enough based on my 15 clients that need to use influencer marketing and I'm having a hard time finding them, there's not enough. So you got to find a niche. And that's another thing, is like niching down. My husband hates the word niche, by the way. He hates it. He's like, if I hear niche one more time, I'm like, it's just a word in it is used a lot. Anyway, but something that can narrow down where you can capture, like, I need somebody in different age ranges. You know what I mean? Like, yes, maybe the influencer market at a 18 to 22 range is really saturated because everybody's fighting for that spot. They've kindly got their sense of confidence, but like older influencers are like really, really needed. You know what I mean? And just younger influencers. So there's still so much room and so much opportunity in it. You just have to find your path and identify what you're going to influence.
I like the word niche because if you are an influencer, you should probably have a niche. There's a lot of fitness, and I mean, I don't think it's oversaturated.
Yeah, there's not.
Lifestyle, wellness, mom, so many opportunities to be a mom blogger. I mean, when I was a mom blogger, I got so many opportunities. I got so much free stuff, so many free tickets to concerts and events for my family. So there's so many opportunities too, and trade-offs, I
Can
think.
we get some men influencers in here, please?
Absolutely.
Like, you don't have to be just a singer or an athlete. You can just be like a regular dad.
Absolutely.
Cool.
And there's not enough men. So men listening, you can be an influencer. Totally can do it. We need
Yeah,
more influencers. So anyone listening and you're maybe thinking, it's too late for me to be an influencer. We have just told you right here that it is not too late. So go and start today and start working with brands, start showcasing what you can do.
exactly. That's what it is. Start showcasing, start following people. I think there's a way to like, I'm trying to find a path of like creating that connection with influencers and agents because I'm just off sidebar. I when I'm searching or doing research for an influencer, I'm usually searching in a specific location. So I'm putting like Austin influencer, Austin blogger, Austin athlete, Austin whatever, and I'm trying to find those niches right in that area. So that's one thing I would suggest, which is just a little tip, is to use location-based hashtags when you are marketing yourself, because a lot of these local businesses want that and they just don't know how to get it. They just don't know how to reach it.
That gem was dropped. Please pick it up and use it because it's absolutely a fact. When I was a Chicago blogger, people search that hashtag all the time and I got reached out to for all type of things. So it
Um,
works.
it works.
100%. So I want to talk about influencer categories because there's micro influencer, mega influencer, and people may get confused. So what are the different categories and how are influencers categorized?
Yeah, the mega micro and all that came from definitely just putting them into a little pot of up to this many followers. I forget where it falls, but like micro is going to be under 25 or something. And then, yeah, and it works because it kind of gives you an idea. If you're for a macro influencer, someone that's huge, you are going to pay top dollar, right? And that kind of will give you a gauge of where you're going to fall into on the type of influencer you're looking for. I think that micro influencers are gold because I think their price is relatively priced. You're still getting quality content. They're passionate about what they're doing, and it's more of a connection community feel as to where when you get up into the macro influencers, they're a little bit more detached from these types of things. They're doing it because it's obviously a brand deal, but they are probably working on other things at that level.
Yeah. And what about nano influencers? What do you think about someone who maybe has like 1,000 followers? Because I found too, like they sometimes have really, really niche communities that really, are there for them too.
Yeah, like friend, like yeah, very close friend family group. Those are great too. Those are the best kind because they're actually listening to what they have to say. So and those ones are harder to find too. Those are the ones I really like to find, especially if they can generate content that can be used. I think that is a really important piece. No matter your size, just focus on the quality of content that you're giving your clients back, and that will be heard and also passed on. Like if I find a good influencer, then I'm like, dude, I booked her. Not only did she give us the 5 reels and the 6 posts or stories, she also went above and beyond and added us here, and she still tags us when she's doing that. Like that to me is like, I'll use her all the time. I'm going to share her name. It's a little bit of that too. So we're a community. Obviously, we've met here, and so we're always paying attention to those things.
I love that too. And see, you don't have to have 10,000 followers to be an influencer. So we need to wipe that number from our brains because you can be an influencer with 200 followers, 1,000 followers. Again, it is all about building those relationships. And if someone reaches out to you and you get a brand and you do get your first brand deal and it's $1,000, go above and beyond and beyond and beyond. That
Mm-hmm.
is how you build those long-term partnerships. And when people reach out, they're like, oh, Michelle did such a great job on this. And then they'll give your name to other people, just like you said. So it's all about that relationship building. It totally is.
It really is.
Well, this has been such a great episode with so many amazing gems dropped about influencer marketing. Yes. So, can you let us know where we can find you? If people want more information about you, about your amazing company, please let us know. And all the information will be in the show notes as well.
Yeah, so we're at TJ Creative Agency on Instagram and TikTok. You'll see Audrey, not me there. She is my creative director and she does a ton of TikToks. We do tips, we do all the things as it pertains to an influencer or a business. So we are definitely in your wheelhouse as far as content. And then Social Sessions Podcast is a podcast that we have that we also talk about same kind of concepts, influencer marketing and business social media marketing, how you can utilize that into your strategy. So yes, TJ Creative and Social Sessions is where we're at.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been such a great episode. And please, everyone, I hope you took amazing notes, and make sure you follow Terrah and her amazing company online as well.
Thank you for having us. Bye.